Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on this cold and snowy evening. Glad to see the gang all here. I will call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order, and the first item, of course, is to approve minutes for our December meeting.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Mr. Beatty, our county trustee, will give the investment report.
Thank you, ma'am. Kind of a very short, just one page. We didn't have an event where we bid over the last month, and you can see the LGIP rate of 0.35. We had a good month collecting taxes, no long lines, which is always good.
Does that mean not much coming in?
No, we had a good month. It ran fairly smoothly, so we're running about on average.
Pretty steady on New Year's Eve, I might say.
Pretty steady.
Move to
Most
approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Beatty. Be safe going home.
I came up to pay my taxes, thought I'd visit a little while, and there was a lot to do.
If you will please locate your fund condition report, our Finance Director, Mrs. Nolan, will begin with the development tax report.
In December, they received $63,750, and the total for the year is $504,000. But we're going to talk about the first 2 days in January that they collected, and they've collected $300,000 in 2 days in January.
Which will make that the best collection.
That'll be the best collected.
So
I'm going to steal some thunder from next month's meeting. Apartments. It's 196 apartments. Is the third phase of apartments on Salem.
Okay, let's move now to cash balances.
Okay. Total balances at the end of December is $168,727,000, with $138,343,000 being operating funds, $30,383,000 being borrowed funds. And as you can see, there's a lot of little dashes there where we've cleaned up a lot of those. Cleaned all that up. I've given you your revenue review. You've got one, and it's titled, you've got 2 pages of it. One's titled After Wells Fargo. Again, I reached over there in January. Wells Fargo mortgage payment came in December, but it didn't get posted until January, and that was about $9 million worth. So at least you could have a comparison of what it was to the other month, to the other years. It made it more clear. Otherwise, it looked like we were really, really behind. So, when you do your review, just look at the one that says after Wells Fargo.
So don't look at it.
Well, you can, but it's skewed. I mean, $9 million will skew something.
Yeah. $9 million here, $9 million there, that's real money for a while.
Yeah.
There's 2 for down, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Petty. Any further discussion or questions for Mrs. Nolan? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We are ready for our insurance report. Mrs. Miller?
Good evening. If you'll look at your financial report for the insurance fund, we'll start with the medical, dental, and vision, and our per employee per month costs were back down this month after last month. And again, as I explained last month, there was a lot of timing in how it went through the bank account. But in total, if you compare this time period, the same time period last year, we're slightly lower. The Care Here claims came in consistent with last year, and our total PEPM per employee per month core plan costs, which are medical, dental, vision, and Care Here, are slightly lower than last year, and our GASB ARC liability is at $22.5 million through the month of December. The next page is the backup for those numbers. And the average so far this year on our per employee per month for the medical, dental, and vision is at $669.89 per, like I said, per employee per month. If you compare that to the same time period last year, it was at $697.14. So we're down roughly 4%. Remember last year we were up just a little bit. So again, the timing of the claims came in and smoothed it back out again. So we're down about 4% from last year. Doing the same comparison for the Care Here numbers, we're actually up 4.5% on theirs, but then when you blend all of that together and do that comparison, we're down 3.6% year over year. Last year at this time we were talking about how far we were up, so it's kind of a nice change to see things smoothing out a little bit. The next page is our work injury fund, and you'll see that we had a higher claim month in the month of December 2009 than we did in the month of December 2008. There were some rather large claims in there. There was one very significant medical claim, and we also had a settlement. The next box down below compares the workers' comp to the OJI claims. What we've been watching so far is as the OJI comes up, the workers' comp will go down. Well, this month was a contradiction to that. The workers' comp was actually quite a bit higher than the OJI, but both that large medical claim and settlement were from claims back to the old workers' comp period, so that explains why it was a higher month. And then the next page is the backup for that, and I'll call your attention to the yellow box over on the left-hand side where it has the year-to-date, and that's the comparison of the year-to-date claims for this year compared to the same time period last year, and we are at roughly 74% of where we were last year on a paid claim basis, and if this is a fiscal year comparison. Then I have one other page I wanted to share with you. This compares, we've completed now 1 year of the OJI claims versus workers' comp, so 1 year of the program. And the first box that you're looking at is the actual money that went through the bank account in 2008 as compared to 2009. So these claims in 2008, of course, would be all workers' comp claims because we didn't have any on-the-job injury claims, but they could be claims that were incurred in years prior to that. These are actual bank account dollars. And the same is true for 2009, but we start moving in some of the OJI claims because that's what they all were as of 2009. And if you look at that first bold line, you can see the total paid was actually down 5.7% year over year. So it was a nice little savings. But then if you look at the next line called the reserve change, you can see that we were down significantly on reserves. Now, reserves are the money that we set back to pay for future liabilities on existing claims. And so it's claims, once the claim is incurred, you pay out a little bit of what it costs, and then there may be additional costs down the pike. And so what this is an estimate of what those additional costs will be. And that's derived by an actuary each year, and we have to make an adjustment. So last year in 2008, our reserve change was a positive $465,000. But in 2009, with the new program, our reserve change was a negative $828,000. So that definitely was a favorable result for us. But I would caution you that that's a one-time adjustment at that magnitude. We would hope to see in future years further declines in the amount of reserves required, but they won't be of that size. And then another cost of the OJI program that's not in the workers' comp program is the new LTD insurance. That's the long-term disability that was purchased as part of the on-the-job injury program. This is a new benefit for all eligible employees, and it provides 24-hour coverage, so it's not just for work injuries. If you were hurt at home during the weekend, you'd also be eligible for the long-term disability coverage. So when you compare the total costs of both of those programs year over year, in 2008 the total cost of the program was about $1.9 million, and in 2009 it approached $900,000. So we cut the cost by half, mostly due to that nice reserve change, but nevertheless a significant savings. Now, to make it a little more real for you though, this little box up here called the incurred claims, those are claims that actually happened in that year. So in 2008, we had 235 claims. Those would all be workers' compensation claims. And in 2009, we had 241 claims, and those would all be OJI claims. So the actual number of claims went up slightly. There's a little bit of rationale for that in the fact that we ask everybody to report injuries as soon as they happen, even if they're not certain that they're going to result in a medical claim. So that would explain why the number of claims went up. But the incurred dollars are what tell the true story. The incurred dollars for those 235 claims in 2008 was just over $1 million. But in 2009, under the OJI program, we approached $461,000. That was a 55% decrease. And you're probably asking, well, how can we save that kind of money and still take care of our employees? Well, there's a couple of answers here. The majority of it is due to the fact that we purchased the long-term disability program. And so all of the income replacement from months beyond month 6 have been transferred to an insurance product rather than us having that liability, and so that takes out the incurral for those additional dollars. But then you can't discount the fact that we have the safety program and the training, which has reduced the severity of the claims. In fact, when we have gone back and looked, and we don't have the data complete yet, but an initial view of our lost days shows that we had significantly less lost days from 2009 claims than we did from 2008 claims. So all of this is going together to make this a very successful program.
Question on the reserve charge.
Mm-hmm.
Starting next year, what do you see as a typical reserve change each year in the future, is what I'm saying? Because you said it's going to be less.
Yeah, I would expect it to be less. I would hope for anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000, but you can only reduce to so much. So I would say while we are still building in the OJI program and weaning off the old workers' comp claims, because we still have several of those open, as you know, we'll see as we close those out, we'll see those reserves go down until they reach a level that they'll probably stabilize at. So I'd like to see, you know, anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 for the next few years, and then it would probably stabilize.
You know offhand how many of them cases still open?
The last I looked, it was 35, and we have several that we're preparing to close.
Any further discussion on the financials?
No further report.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan, and seconded by Commissioner P. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. And you also have a recommendation to amend the, excuse me, the on-the-job injury plan document.
I had brought Dan with me to do this, but he had an OJI, so he's not here, and so you'll get kind of an amateur review. I'll try to do my best. Let me explain what we're doing. We've had this program for a year, and after a year of administrating it, we found areas that needed to be tweaked, and so we've done that. And the changes are a result of several things. They're a result of our experience in areas of the document that we felt need to be clarified or simplified, input from other departments, including Mr. Bratcher, and some case law that has been decided over this time period as well. So I will tell you that this document has been to both the insurance and the public safety committees and received a unanimous recommendation. So like I said, Dan deals with the document every day, but I'll endeavor to try to tell you what the changes are. If you go to page 2, the very first change is under the benefit, and they're all highlighted in red, so they should be.
You put one in the packet. Is it the same thing as what we got?
Yeah,
okay.
It is. It's the exact same thing. Anyway, the first change, they're highlighted in red. The first change says FMLA and all. It was just other leave policies, but with the changes in the new FMLA law and the updates to the employee handbooks, we added in the word FMLA. And then on page 4, there's a few things going on in here. There is a Tennessee Code 751-201 for OJI plans, for work injury plans, that states that law enforcement officers and emergency responders can have their conditions such as hypertension and heart disease treated as an OJI. And so that was in the original document, but after review, we had discussions with some other departments, including the sheriff's office, and they would like to have the choice of whether or not they treat them as an OJI or take it through their health insurance, and that is because then under their health insurance they can go to the doctor that they've been treating under, and under OJI, of course, they'd have to use a panel doctor, and so that was a change that we adopted due to that, and it says if this option is not chosen, that they can be eligible for treatment under the county health insurance. The next paragraph down, like I said, it was Tennessee code. All we had in there before was the number, so we wanted to clarify it by saying it's the Tennessee code.
Back up under the law enforcement thing, I mean, is that, to me, I see that being a good change. I mean, is that a good change?
Yes.
For the option there, what they want to do as far as coming through our regular insurance or going through the OGI program?
Yes, it adds flexibility
Okay.
for the employees. Then if you move down under the rules, in the first rule, what we used to do is require that a claim, or what we're currently doing is requiring that a claim be reported immediately or during the current working shift. And of course, in some instances, these claims aren't going to manifest themselves right away, and so people wouldn't, people who are injured may not realize that they have an injury. We heard the example of a spider bite, that you might get bit, you don't know you've been bit for a day or so. And so we checked with some other localities that have OJI plans and what they were doing for this, and this language is a duplication of the Memphis plan, and so now we have 3 calendar days if the injury does not manifest itself. Now, if it does manifest itself, if you know you're injured, like if you cut yourself, you're going to know you're cut. And so that would still require immediate reporting. But if you pull your back or something, you may not know that for a day or so. We did do some research on this. First of all, the 3 days allows us to continue our safety procedures and our accident investigation. It allows us to get out and mitigate any circumstances that might cause further injury quickly. Secondly, we went back and we looked at all the timely reporting issues that we had seen this year and realized that 100% of those would have fit within those 3 days if the people reported them when they noticed that they were hurt. And finally, the last thing is that with our drug testing program, the limit on a few of the drugs that we test for is 3 days, and so that was the rationale behind the 3 days.
How does that work? Like if this happens on a Friday, and then they do the paperwork or whatever on Monday, so
that would fall
that,
within that.
So Friday is the first day of actual hurt though on the job, whatever.
Now, if they're injured on Friday,
yeah.
and they know they're injured,
Well, I'm saying if they get the spider bite on Friday.
right, then they can come in on Monday and fill out their
I see.
paperwork. The next one down is under number 3. This is, we had some complaints from supervisors for employees who were filing claims, and then they weren't doing any of the paperwork. They were just expecting the supervisor to do it all. And so this was inserted in there so that the employees will understand that they need to help their supervisor complete the documentation. On page 5, under number 6, this one is trying to make it a little simpler. The old document said that if they seek treatment from an unauthorized facility, that their claim could be denied. Well, a person might go to the doctor and the doctor says, I can't treat you because that's a work injury. Then they haven't received treatment. So they can still go and get treatment once they realize it's a work injury. So this was trying to add a little bit more flexibility to an employee and saying if you actually receive treatment from another doctor, that may cause your claim to be denied, not if you just go and get an opinion. So again, trying to simplify for the employees. The next one is on page 7. The old language said that we may require an alcohol test. The new language says we will require, and this is to bring us into continuity with the Tennessee Drug-Free program, which has been adopted under the employee handbooks. Under number 8, down below, again, this is to add consistency. Medical treatment not sought within 7 calendar days after reported first injury is filed. We'd like to change that to the date of injury. And the rationale for this is that the supervisors send in the report of first injury, but they have up to 2 days to do it. The employee simply has to notify the supervisor that they're injured, then the supervisor has 2 days to file the paperwork. Well, some of the supervisors file it immediately, and some wait the 2 days to file it. Well, what that was meaning was that some employees then would have 9 days to get treatment rather than 7. And the intent of the program all along was to make it consistent at 7 days. And so it's simply after the date of injury rather than the first report of injury. On page 8, under medical treatment centers, the original document said that they would seek treatment at the emergency room of Middle Tennessee Medical Center or the nearest emergency medical facility. We'd like to change that to or that facility selected by medical emergency transport responders. The rationale for this is that the medical responder needs to have the say-so in where they take their patients. They may have a specialized accident that needs specific treatment that's not available at the nearest facility or at the emergency room of Middle Tennessee Medical Center. And so we don't want to be between an emergency responder who's trying to treat their patient. So we'd like to change that to make it a little more flexible. On page 9, the OJI review and appeal process. This is a change. We received feedback that the review and appeal process could be a little too formal and maybe intimidating to the employees. So we tried to go through and make it a little simpler and also a little more applicable to the way the program has actually been running. And so in the first part of the process, we've changed it into a review process where the employee can come in after a claim denial and sit down and give additional information or ask for clarification, and it's just much more of a conversation than a formal review. And so we have changed the language throughout this paragraph to simplify that and to make it not so intimidating to the employees. The second part of this, on page 10, this is the second part of the appeals process. This is the appeals committee. We changed the first change up there where it says or human resources coordinator. That was at the request of some county departments. Some departments, it did say human resources director, but some departments have their own human resources personnel, and they may want to be the one that attends instead of the HR director for the county. And so we wanted to give them that flexibility by adding in human resources director or human resources coordinator of the county division that employs the individual. Then down below, we added in that the individual has the right to have present family members, friends, counsel, or a designated representative. And that was in order to meet with case law, and as well as to add some flexibility and a comfort level to the employee that they would know that they could bring whoever they felt was important to them. And then the last thing, the actual appeals process for the county is complete after step 2. But in order to let the employee know that they might have additional ways to take this, we added in that they may be eligible for judicial review after they have completed the steps above of the appeal and review. And that's all of the changes.
Well, I had several questions last time when I saw this in public safety, and she's answered all of them for me. So I'm going to go ahead and make a recommendation to approve this.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner P. Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Do we need any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Elam?
Yes. Mrs. Miller, thank you very much. Be safe. Gentlemen, if you will turn please to section 3 in your notebooks, we will begin with the general fund budget amendments. Mr. Bratcher from Chancery Court. Good evening,
Yes,
sir.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you all. What this has to do with is that finally, after 11 years, and add another 4 years to that if you look at the failed effort on the part of the state to create a new computer software for state court clerks. And I think I've mentioned this many times in this at this meeting in years past, but In any case, it appears that the state will be implementing that beginning March 1st. Well, in December of '09, they came and visited and told us we were going to need a lot of extra hardware, including a $12,000 server and another $12,000 in upgrades to our PCs and so forth. Well, Mr. Robertson and I discussed that with the vendor, local government, and then also with the Administrative Office of the Courts, and they agreed to, the state agreed to provide us with a $12,000 server. So that cut that in half. And the remainder of that is basically upgrades to equipment, that some replacement and some upgrades to equipment. Now, the Chancery Court collects a $2 fee on filings in the Chancery Court, which in this case can only be used for computer services, either for hardware or for software. And in discussions with the folks in the finance office, Ms. Nolan and also Ms. Cawthon, I believe, we determined that we had, I believe, about $4,500 left over. Is that correct?
You've got the $7,453 that was from prior years.
Okay, and then the 45.
And then the balance
the other
is,
side. I had it reversed.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, there were monies that we hadn't used in the past that could only be used for this purpose, and then we have monies for this year that also can only be used for this purpose. And that's what this request for transfer and amendment is for.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Salmon, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Good night. From the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Jones. Welcome.
Good evening.
Yes.
I'm representing Regina tonight. The second team is here. And it's pretty simple. Two changes on the grants, monies that we have received, which is the JAG grant, which we shared with Murfreesboro. And I think the money's in $46,721. Need to change that over, as you can see, to 709, and that'll be used in Judge Bragg's court. And we're going to use that for video arraignment. And number two, we're taking monies out of the salaries on 189 and putting in 336, and that's our maintenance account. We're running low on that because we had to buy some video equipment earlier in the year. And that's the two I've got.
Motion to approve.
Seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Any further discussion?
Gina, did the sheriff authorize this?
I put my name on it, but we know that.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Sheriff Jones, do you have anything else?
I got a lot further, but
I understand.
Do you have anything else?
No.
That's
no.
it?
No,
Okay.
just you guys be safe tonight. The
Yeah.
roads are really slick tonight.
Your guys can be safe too, don't
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. We'll see you early in the morning.
they? That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a budget amendment from the Correctional Work Center, and you will notice, gentlemen, that this in the amount of $4,000 for maintenance and repair to buses, vehicles, and kitchen equipment, which has been more than anticipated, and we have those dollars from a salary line item due to a vacancy. Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. We have an ambulance service budget amendment. Mr. Nunley? Good evening.
A few days ago, we had an unexpected failure of our radio system. The part that failed is the controller unit, which is between the actual radio and the consoles that the dispatchers do their telecommunications from. What happened was it has two power supplies, and both of those power supplies failed, and also the controller that controls the power supplies failed. Now, that's complicated by the fact that this radio system is 9 years old, which is old in the electronic world, but further complicated by the fact that the people who made that system are no longer in business. We were able to find a controller and two power supplies in Canada. Another company actually made those supplies for Orbicron, which made our radio. And they had a few left on, I think they had 8 of them left on their shelf. The price on that is installed is $5,300. The only warranty that we get on that would be as long as they have parts, they'll warranty it. But if they sell out parts, then there's just no more available. As opposed to replacing the whole thing is $155,000. So we feel like that the best thing to do would be to go ahead and patch this one together and think about replacing this sometime in the future.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan.
So
And
you're telling us sometime in the future, this is gonna be coming back?
And we're not,
Ed,
we aren't the only boat in your ocean either, because the
Right.
sheriff is in the same.
Yeah.
Should we order another one of these parts? They've only got 8.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All their spare parts we can
Take
get. We might want to consider that seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll think on that.
Okay.
Come back.
There's only 8 of them in existence.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
need another one at some point in time.
How often do you have to replace that same thing? I mean,
This is the first time.
oh, it's the first time,
we've
sir.
used it.
Okay.
We've been fortunate.
But
So,
if the sheriff's got the same system, his is probably 8 or 9 years old.
so we might need 2 at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
who is our representative on public safety? Is it Commissioner
P.
P? Okay. This did not go through your committee. I will alert you to that. Mr. Nunley is bringing that directly here, but
I did talk to the chairman.
but he did
Chairman
talk to
Farley.
Chairman Farley,
This
yes,
is an emergency.
yes.
So you don't have any radios, right?
We've got it patched
Oh, it's
together
working.
using a mobile power supply, which we've just had our fingers crossed the whole time. Should we have a failure before we get it repaired, we can relocate to the 911 office. They have a backup over there, but that's kind of complicated. Involves OIT and as well as the 911 staff and our staff.
Makes it comfy over there.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Nunley. You too? Gentlemen, if you will please turn to section 4 in your notebook. We have a solid waste sanitation fund budget amendment, and Mr. Nolan is here in his Christmas sweater.
Yes.
Oh, Christmas. It's re-gifted.
I'm cheap.
We're asking for,
We have to pay a bill, right?
yes, ma'am, we dropped the ball and didn't pay our rent at the Las Casas Convenience Center last spring. The money was, of course, we have a fund balance, so any money we don't spend rolls back into our fund balance. So the money is actually in our fund balance. We just need to pull it out from fund balance and actually pay our rent that we failed to pay.
We don't have a lot of choice there. Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P., seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. And we need to amend a contract in lieu of performance bond for the Rutherford County landfill. And of course, this is the annual inflation adjustment. And that number has, are you going to take
Decreased,
this?
yes,
or-
you see on the
Okay.
front page, it's decreased 135,890 down to
You notice that on the bottom line?
618,951. And this is something you see every year.
30 more years, okay.
No, we've got 20 more years. If you flip to that last page on it, it tells you we've got about 20 more years.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you. Gentlemen, section 6 in your notebook, Mr. Sandy. The first item that we need to deal with is a correction from the minutes and from our last meeting. If you will notice, and I would assume that this is just for our information, I don't think we need to have a motion on this. We reallocated $3,449,134. That was what was reported in our minutes. But if you will turn to the next page, that needs to be corrected to $3,446,134. So we just need to make sure that we get this in the minutes as a correction. Will that cover that? Is that all we need to do?
We just say 3,000 more.
Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Sanford, if you will begin with your capital projects fund budget amendment. I think you just have one tonight.
Yes, ma'am. 3 of the projects that were included in the 2008-2009 budget for Fund 177 hadn't been completed as of June 30th, 2009. So the remaining dollars went to our fund balance. This amendment takes $427,144, the amount we need to finish the projects, from the fund balance and budgets it to line items in function 91-300 education capital projects. Most of the funds will go to maintenance and repair services for buildings, and the 3 projects that will be completed with this $427,000 or cover the funding to complete them. John Coleman renovation, $385,144. The Smyrna High roof, $20,128. And the Christiana Elementary roof, $21,872. These are not new funds. $650,748 in unexpended budgeted funds went to fund balance as of July 1. And this $223,604 difference is the savings on last year's projects.
So these projects already been done.
Right, but we used just, yeah.
Projects
We used
projects approved in
0809
that finished in
Yeah.
910.
Yeah.
And we committed to doing, we just got
Right.
to pay for them out of this year's budget.
Well, I mean,
Well,
it was
yeah,
appropriated
well,
last year,
yeah.
and then it goes into
Yeah.
fund balance, and we had to pull it back out.
Yeah, unlike the building program
That goes on and on.
that goes on and on.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P., seconded by Commissioner Schaefer.
We had $223,000 extra dollars from last year in your maintenance. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
That's better than 2,000.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen, Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sandy.
Thank you.
Any other business that needs to come before the committee? Commissioner Schaefer, I know you mentioned you wanted to mention something.
Am I the only one? I just want to mention that this Saturday morning, from 6 to 10 o'clock at the Smyrna Rescue Squad on Gamble Lane in Smyrna is a ham breakfast. I have to say it in spite of some of the people who are sitting around here, but the best ham breakfast in the county. You all are,
You say Smyrna, is that for Laverne?
did I did not
You said
say Smyrna.
Smyrna.
I meant Laverne Rescue Squad on Gamble Lane is where it is. I'm sorry. Okay.
If he'll lie about that, he'll
Yeah.
lie about something else.
That was a Freudian slip, definitely. And one more thing, I'd mentioned this before at the commission meeting, but the renovation of the band room at Laverne High School was completed with several hundred volunteers overall over Christmas, and it's really helped a lot. And I would just like to thank again the Band Booster volunteers, the Home Depot Foundation, and all the workers from the Smyrna Home Depot that came over to help. That's where the Smyrna came in. And also people like Jack's Glass and Hammer and Nails, RWI and Neff Rentals, Fury Imaging, Jim and Nick's Barbecue, Coca-Cola, Allied Waste, Glidden Paints, and Ryobi, Black & Decker, and Heavy Equipment for all that they donated and or fed during those 2 weeks there. And I mean, they put in quite a few hours, all of them over there, and it really has helped the band out, and we appreciate it.
Commissioner Jordan.
I've got a question, and it's not pertaining to that, but I got an email and inadvertently got lost, and you all may have gotten it. A copy of an article from a community somewhere else that was looking into companies that had gotten tax abatements, and if they were actually living up to their end of the bargain. If they had promised 60 jobs, they had 60 jobs, and they were enforcing this. They were going back, if you didn't create that many jobs in the amount of time, you paid all the back taxes. Now, do we enforce our past contracts with, Nissan, General Mills, things like that? And if not, should we be looking into those to see if Verizon has the number of employees they are supposed to have? And I took it for granted they
some
did.
review process, but I don't know how formal it's been done, how complete it is. I know they
Apparently,
have
a lot
discussed
of
that.
counties across the country are looking at these and finding a lot of companies that aren't meeting that criteria, and they're reaching back and bringing in substantial tax dollars. And so I just wanted to make sure. I know we've got the IDB does a great job. They've got a good attorney. I feel sure they're doing everything they should be. But I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to contact this person who sent the email and it accidentally got deleted, and I don't know who sent it to me.
I have a copy of that.
I've got a copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I do.
We need to see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we could get Chairman Baker to come before us and just give an update.
Well, I was going to suggest that they send us a report.
That'd be good.
I was going to say that some of those agreements don't have a jobs
But some do.
attainment.
I know Verizon was before I
Verizon
got
did.
here, but I thought they had
Verizon
a
had.
number of positions, and
And I think this, the one with, that we just did.
I think Nissan does too.
Nissan, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
the one that we just
Those
did
ones.
had some.
General Mills,
The newer ones, the
Pillsbury
more
had
recent
one.
ones.
General
Yeah.
Mills did, I thought, or Pillsbury, whoever, I thought he
Yeah.
did one for them a few years ago. I thought it had a number of new jobs and stuff, and so.
There was something else in that email that Commissioner Jordan was talking about that's pretty interesting too, is there's some areas of the country that are starting to require that the employees be hired locally for these expansions and things that are there. And,
And
I think
material
we
be
have-
bought locally also, I believe it said.
There's also some of these business picking up, moving to other states when they get so many regulations on them, they can't operate.
Well, you've
not
got to
living up to
tread
what they
softly,
said.
but you do also need to make sure people live up to their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sandlin.
I just want to mention that our thoughts and prayers go out with the Brandon family, Mr. Brandon, that passed away, and fine fella at 103 years old.
Anybody didn't get to know him missed a rare opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Unique individual.
Any other business that needs to come before this committee?
Gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, and be safe going home.